Welcome to the wine glass, and today we're going to be teaching you about wine glasses. Now, you might be wondering, does the shape of my wine glass actually matter? And the answer to that is yes. The size of your base determines on how much of the surface of your wine is going to be exposed to oxygen, while the size of the rim determines on how much oxygen actually gets into your glass. Now, in white wines, you don't really want too much oxygen getting into the glass. For red wine, you do want some more oxygen getting into the glass. That way it kind of softens out the wine. Now I do have a set of glasses here, and I'm going to be going into each glass and letting you know what the purpose is for each of those glasses and what the benefits are for the glasses. First glass is going to be champagne flute. Now with champagne flutes, they are pretty much like a straight line going from the base all the way to the rim. This one in particular does have a little bit of a flare, but normally they're kind of a straight line. And as you can see, it's pretty narrow on the base and the rim. The purpose for that is that all those bubbles that you find in champagne stay as tight as possible so that every sip is as effervescent and as refreshing as the last. The next glass is your white wine glass. The white wine glass is very similar to a champagne in the idea that it's almost a straight line, so the base and the rim is going to be similar in size. It does flare out just a little bit at the base, but as you can see, not a very wide base, not a very wide opening. Now this does even out the surface of your wine, but you're not letting too much oxygen into your wine. Next is going to be something that a lot of you might be wondering, is there a universal glass? Is there a glass that I can use for both white wine and red wine? The answer is yes. So universal glasses have a little bit of a wider base compared to white wine glasses and a little bit more of a narrowed opening compared to red wine glasses. This is so that you can use it for either red wine or white wine or even rosé wine, whichever wine you are interested in drinking for that day. So you can see, awesome. Now, the next glass is we're going to start going into the red wines. This is considered a Cabernet or a Bordeaux glass. It is a little wider at the base compared to the other ones, and it has a very wide brim opening. Now, when you start getting into a wider base, you're starting to open up your surface and more wine to be exposed to oxygen. Why do we want that? Well, if you're drinking a red wine and your mouth feels like sandpaper and that you really need a glass of water in between, that is your tannins. When you expose it to oxygen and let it breathe, it does soften out those tannins, so it makes it a little more pleasing for people to drink. Next class is your Pinot Noir or your Burgundy. These have a very wide base, but are pretty narrow compared to your Bordeaux glass opening. This does bring out that surface, so a little bit more of your surface is going to be exposed to oxygen, while the brim staying as kind of narrow is not going to let too much oxygen in, so it does regulate the amount of oxygen coming into your wine. Now, the next is another example of a universal glass that you can use. A stemless. Stemless glasses do have almost the same shape as a white wine glass. It is wider here and wider at the rim. So you can use it for either red wine or white wine, whichever one you're in preference for that day. And this is a glass that not a lot of people really talk about or really know too much about, the dessert wine glass. Dessert wine glasses do come in different shapes and sizes, just like all the other glasses do. But one thing is very common, they are very small compared to your other glasses. The reason for this is because your dessert wines have a much higher alcohol content, where your Cabernet will be 14%, a port or a sherry could be about 16 to 17%. Now, the smaller glass does mean that you put less wine in, but as you can see, it does have a pretty universal shape. It has a very, very wide opening, but a little bit less, as wide of a base. Normally with dessert wines, they are a little bit fortified and they are a bit more oxidized, especially when you're talking about ports and sherries. So you don't really have to worry too much about the amount of oxygen going in. Now, just some etiquette here for your glasses so that next time you're in an environment with a wine glass, you kind of know you look like what you're doing. Now, as tempting as it is to hold on to your glass as a Victorian vampire holding on to their goblet, we have something they do not. Body heat. So if you hold on to your glass like this, you're actually going to be warming up your wine and you're going to be putting fingerprints all over your glass. So the best thing to do is actually holding it by your stem. Now, when you go to drink your wine, if you're wearing lipstick, lip gloss, lip balm, anything on your lips, you want to keep to the same spot every time. That keeps your glass nice and clean, and you can see the shade of lipstick so you know that glass is yours. If you're going to go ahead and cheers with somebody, make sure you're always using the rim of your glass. You don't want to go straight in because somebody's going to end up with glass in their hand, and it doesn't have as satisfying as a sound. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Drink responsibly, and happy drinking!